guys, I'm Andrea Dunlop, and this is the third in my video series about how to write your novel. And today I'm going to be talking about getting stuck. So in the first two videos, I talked about finding your motivation to write and building good writing habits. So be sure to check those out if you haven't seen those two yet. And just to recap, I am going to be ending each of these videos with an exercise to make my advice actionable. So if you did last week's exercise, which was to find several blocks of 30 minutes each and schedule them on your calendar to write, let me know in the comments how it went. So today I'm going to be talking about getting stuck, and hopefully you're not stuck right now, but if you've been going super hard this month, you definitely might be. And if you're not stuck right now, you will be at some point. So it's a good topic to cover. So I will say right off the bat that I'm not a big believer in writer's block. Certainly people get stuck, and everyone who's working on something creative can feel kind of stuck or blocked, but I don't think there's just a specific kind of stuckness that happens to writers. And I think writer's block can function a bit like a chupacabra, that if you believe in it, it's real and it will happen to you. And I think you can just get kind of fixated on it. So I'm going to talk in a future video a little bit more about why I think sort of fetishizing or mythologizing the creative process is unhelpful, but this is definitely a big part of it. But being stuck is real. So I think the first thing to do when you're feeling stuck is to just kind of check your vitals. How are you doing? Are you sleep deprived right now? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you sick? Is there something else going on with, your friend or family, or, in your day job that's really, draining all of your energy? I think a lot of what we call writer's block is just plain burnout, which is obviously a huge problem in our culture with all of us being so busy. And for most of us, writing is kind of that extra thing that we're doing. So it can be the thing that makes everything too much really easily. I remember really vividly when I sat down to kind of get back to working on my book after I had Fiona last fall. I just felt completely drained in the beginning because life was draining me, right? I had a new baby and I wasn't getting good sleep. And so it wasn't until my life stabilized a little that I was really able to get back to my normal writing habits. What do you do if you find that you are really burned out? I think the most important thing is to ask, is this really the right time for a big, ambitious goal, if that's what you're doing? If you're doing NaNoWriMo, or if you're just really trying to get, a draft done on a certain timeline, ask yourself if you can scale back, if you just have a lot going on in your life, and if you can set some more reasonable goals for yourself. It's okay if now is not the time that you need to be really going hard on your writing goals. Writing is never the most important thing. People, including you, are the most important thing. And people who put, their writing above human beings, those people are assholes. So that's not something to aspire to. And I think that that's a really important point to make. So what if you find that you're just not excited about the project that you're working on? In the previous video, my first video, I talked about kind of finding that motivation. And in the writing habits video, I talked about, why you're not going to feel motivated every day. So I don't think that you need, that burning motivation to be in touch with that every day. A lot of writing is just sitting down and working. But I do think you need to have an underlying excitement about your project. Just a gentle reminder here, and I'll say it many times, no one else is going to care if you finish your book. So if you're not excited about it, there is no book. So if you feel like you're just overall not thrilled about this project, it might be time to put it aside and think about, what else you might be feeling more motivated to work on. So what if you're just stuck on a processy thing, on like plot point or a character arc? So we have these two terms that we use in the writing community. Are you a plotter or are you a pantser? So plotters are people who do a lot of work before they sit down to write. So they do a really detailed outline, they do character sketches. Pantsers, like me, maybe have a general idea of where they're going when they sit down to write, but most of, how we find out what our books are about are by writing a first draft. So whichever style you are, I think it's really important to be flexible and to not get too attached to ideas of what you thought your book was going to be if it's coming out different on the page. So don't be afraid to throw away or revise your outline, or to let go of whatever you thought this book was going to be. I think the most important thing on a first draft is to just keep writing, keep that momentum going. So if you're stuck on something, just try and move on from it. Let your first draft be a glorious mess. This is my favorite part of writing a first draft, is that you can just kick problems down the road, right? So when I'm writing a first draft, if I get stuck on something, I just say, oh, that's a problem for future Andrea to deal with, in the revision process. Because a lot of novel writing, happens in the revision process. So just keep going. So, a couple last kind of ideas about being stuck. definitely don't be afraid to take a break. Make it a structured one. Say you're going to take the afternoon off or a day or, a week if you need to just like let the manuscript sit for a minute. I think breaks can be really helpful. It's also really helpful to just like do something else with that time. So, go outside, go to the gym, use your body, kind of get out of your head. I think the best, one of the best pieces of writing advice that I've come across is from Elizabeth Gilbert in her wonderful book, Big Magic. She suggests finding some other creative activity that you can turn to when you're feeling stuck. So for me, I've found that gardening is really helpful. So I love being outside, kind of getting my hands in the dirt. That's a really good antidote to spending a lot of time in my head when I'm working on a book. So I did a lot of gardening last summer when I was launching my third book and working on my fourth one. Okay, so your homework for this week: if you are stuck, find another creative activity to do. It can be anything you want. It can be playing the trumpet, it can be gardening or cooking or drawing, but just find something else that you can turn to kind of keep that creative engine going, but that has nothing to do with writing. So even if you're not stuck, figure out what that thing's going to be, because you will need it someday. Okay, as always, let me know your questions, your comments. Next week, I'm going to be talking about writing goals and what to do if you fall short. So be sure to check that out.